All right, go
Hi.
ahead, Jessica.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to some, I'm sure. The recording is on. So welcome to the first in a long time webinar for current members of HathiTrust, new members of HathiTrust, discovering or rediscovering HathiTrust. I'm Jessica Rohr. I'm the Member Engagement and Communications Specialist here at HathiTrust. And I've got a number of my colleagues joining us today. Melissa Stewart will be facilitating, moderating, making sure we don't break Blue Jeans prime time. Mike Furlow is here as the executive director, and Sandra McIntyre is here as director of services and operations. So you will be hearing from all of us today. We do have a lot to cover, and so I don't want to spend too much time talking about the weather or whatnot. But I do want to say that it has been a while since we've offered one of these, and I thank you all for your patience and your enthusiasm. We have received respondances from more than 200 people, and so we're excited to be able to share all of these topics with you. I'm going to share my screen here, and you will likely not see me for a bit until the end, but we'll cover first some of the logistics, and then get into the immediate content. So you should all see the title screen there. I know Melissa will let me know if that is not the case.
Yeah, we're not seeing it yet.
Okay. Let me try that again. How about that?
Yep, now we have it.
Excellent. All right. So there's a couple of logistics to cover here. We will be holding questions until the end of the session. I've left about 15, 20 minutes ideally to take questions at the end, but we will pause throughout to remind you that you can enter questions along the way in the chat window. Melissa and Sandra and Mike will do their best to respond to some, and we may save some for the end, but just so you know, we will be taking time at the end to dedicate to questions and answers. Everyone online right now has their audio and their visuals muted, so that will be something to just keep in mind. And we will, oops, still moving along here. Let's see, my screen, of course, is not moving yet. So hold everything. We'll get the screen and the slides moving. I'm going to try that one more time. As usual, these things work in rehearsal and not when you want them to. Okay. So again, just reiterating how we will interact during the session here. So some of the topics that we will all be covering today: the history of HathiTrust, the structure of the organization. We'll get into some of the details of membership and benefits exclusively for members. We'll talk a bit about the collections, accessing items in the collection, how to get help both for yourself as a member representative or contact, and also for your patrons. Ways that you can get involved in HathiTrust and our activities, a bit about the future. And as I said, then we'll look to you to ask questions, then hopefully we can answer. So I will tell you right now, there is no way we're going to cover everything that you want to know about HathiTrust in the next 50 minutes. But keep in mind that this is the beginning of what we hope will be more discussion, more outreach dedicated to topics that you need to hear about. So if you don't hear it today, make sure to ask a question at the end, but keep in mind that there will be opportunities in the future to dig in deeper to HathiTrust. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike right now to talk to us a bit about the history of the organization.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well this afternoon / morning / midday. I am going to talk a little bit about history, but before I do that, I wanted to acknowledge the new members who have joined HathiTrust in the last 24 months or so, since the beginning of 2018. I guess that's only 18 months. We've had a pretty substantial growth in membership in the last year and a half, 23 new members. You see them here, some of them from, many of them from the United States, but not only. We have a couple of 3 new members from Canada, new members in Australia, new members in New Zealand as well, a couple of system universities, or university systems that have joined as well. So thanks to all of you. It's members are really the heart of the organization. We were organized as a member organization. Our funding is almost 100% from the members. And so we work really hard to ensure that what we do is aligned with member needs, member goals. And I want to talk a little bit about the history of HathiTrust, but first I'm going to just lay out the mission and vision for HathiTrust. We see ourselves as kind of an extension of your library, right? Our goal is to make it possible for you to better serve the individuals, the students, the faculty, even members of the public who come into your libraries and provide services, to whom you provide services. So our mission is very much focused on collection, on preservation, on providing access to the record of human knowledge, i.e. the scholarly record. And our vision is really focused on making sure that that collection that we're aggregating and that we're working with you to develop is especially useful to those end users, right? We really want to be able to support the kinds of research, teaching, and learning that are happening in your libraries, whether you are a university library, whether you're a college library, or whether you're the Library of Congress. And I know we have folks here from the Library of Congress today, as well as New York Public Library. So the last thing I'll just say about the membership is to note that our membership is entirely made up of academic and research libraries. There's not a very strict limit on, there's no strict limit on size of library or anything like that. It's really just focused on libraries with a research mission, because that's really what our goal is, to support your research mission. So it is now just over 10 years since HathiTrust began. Our anniversary was 8 months ago, in October 2018. So we've entered our 11th year. And one of the things I like to point out about the history of HathiTrust is that it actually goes back farther than 10 years. So if you think about it a little bit, the prehistory of HathiTrust goes back into the early part of the 2000s, early part of this century, which is crazy to say, but it's absolutely true. When Google was still a very young company, was going around knocking on doors in libraries and suggesting that perhaps it'd be good if we they scanned the entire collection of libraries. And what happened then over the next several years is that 5 libraries took them very seriously, including University of Michigan, Harvard, Stanford, New York Public, and Oxford University. And they agreed to have large parts, if not the entirety of their collection, scanned by Google to be included in their database. But this was seen as a kind of a vanguard event. It was seen as something that was audacious, as even crazy. But the libraries that got together and worked with Google understood that they needed to work together as well. So HathiTrust emerges out of a series of conversations and collaborations within the Big Ten universities and the University of California about the development of cooperative and collaborative infrastructure to support preservation and access. So it was in 2008 that we launched. And just as the New York Times covered the launch of the Google Book Project, they also covered the launch of HathiTrust, although I question here the reference to the collection as Google's library, because absolutely 100% this library comes from the libraries that you work in or libraries your colleagues and friends work in. So Google is a great organization in many ways. It has many other issues that people are well aware of. But one of the things that was noted early on was this partnership that was being arranged could be made more fruitful for the public and more fruitful for the university's students and faculty if the libraries would work together in providing access to the collection. So the libraries understood that they were not the same thing as Google. And if anything, Google was less ambitious for what the project could yield than I think the libraries were. The libraries understood that, in fact, we had special mission. We had a special mission. We had special focus on how we could support the students and the faculty on their campuses, and we really banded together to be that preservation steward for this collection. We were really extending our roles as the preservation stewards of the physical collection into this digital realm. So the majority of the collection has come from mass digitization programs, not just Internet Archive, not just Google, but also Internet Archive. But I want to just highlight just a couple of things here at the very end of this short, brief history. And that's to point out how HathiTrust and Google Books relate to each other. These questions come up fairly frequently. So the HathiTrust collection is not the same as the Google Book collection. The Google Book collection is not the same as the HathiTrust collection. We each have materials in our sets that are unique to our sets. We have aggregated materials from many libraries that never partnered with Google. Google has scanned for many libraries that have not partnered with HathiTrust. But even today, we still work together fairly closely on a number of fronts, not least of which to improve the quality of scanned books, as well as to maintain a kind of a regular communication to improve deposit and access of materials. So certainly not the same collection, but similar aims in order to provide access to these materials, the widest possible access we can. But again, I would say HathiTrust focuses much more on specialized uses for academic research and teaching uses. And I would dare say we do a better job of serving that community, the books that Google has scanned and Google itself has. So that's a claim I'll stand on, and we can debate that some other time. But at this point, I wanted to just turn this back over to Jessica so she could talk a little bit more about the organization and how we're operating.
Great. Thank you, Mike. So before we dig into the organization, I just want to remind you all that if you have questions about the formation of HathiTrust, the relationship between HathiTrust and Google, anything that you've heard up to this point, please feel free to chat it in the window at any time, and we'll either answer it there or hold it until the end. So the organization itself is HathiTrust, as Mike said, in part began at U of M as well as with the other Big Ten universities and University of California. It has been administratively based in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan, and that remains so to this day. That said, there are multiple institutions and individuals that make up the whole breadth and depth of HathiTrust, and I want to give you just a look into that so that you understand a little more. As Mike said too, HathiTrust is only administratively, affiliated with the University of Michigan. We are 100% member-driven, mission-focused, and member-funded. So this is the team, the core staff that you will find. 7 of us are based at the Ann Arbor location, and 3 are scattered literally almost from coast to coast: Baltimore, Madison, and California. So you've seen us around. I'm sure many are out and about at conferences, meeting with you regularly, having video conferences, and you can usually find us somewhere at any given time. And the difference between perhaps some of the other groups that we'll be talking about is that this core staff, we are the eyes and the ears for the organization. We really are the ones, at least in part, listening hard to what you're saying, listening to what the needs are, not just within the membership, but within the academic and research library community at large. So you can find our bios on the HathiTrust website and learn a little bit more about the core staff. That said, we would be remiss in not recognizing the extraordinary contributions that our IT staff here at the University of Michigan Library provide. While their pictures are not here on the core staff, we do have a really wonderful team that is dedicated to maintaining our infrastructure and the repository itself. So we've got a really deep team of, people on the ground, the eyes, the ears, and those with the technical expertise. So beyond these individual people, we've got institutions that form a foundation for HathiTrust. The University of Michigan, as the administrative home, is also the home for the initial repository for the digital library. There is also a copy of that backed up at Indiana University. The California Digital Library performs a very important component of the process of ingesting content, in that they manage the metadata of the content contributors are submitting to HathiTrust. So those are other entities that support the digital library piece of HathiTrust. The HathiTrust Research Center came out of a joint initiative from Indiana University and the University of Illinois, and they continue to manage that center to this day. So as you can see, there are people, again, from coast to coast, making sure that HathiTrust does what it says it's going to do, serves you, member libraries, and your community every day. In total, there are approximately 60 people from Baltimore to Berkeley, ensuring that HathiTrust as an enterprise is running as planned. So it's exciting. We are definitely all working together to administer and support this portfolio of work that extends so far beyond the digital library. Oftentimes people scratch their head and go, but aren't you just a digital library? I think those of you who know us well so far, and maybe those of you who are new to us, know that we have a portfolio of work. The work that we're all doing together includes collection development and management. Preservation is, to this day, the core of our work. Many early on joined because of the preservation component, and so we continue to do a lot in that space. But certainly we have done a lot for the libraries at the libraries of HathiTrust, but also libraries at large, from our work in copyright review over the years and computational research. So everything that we do comes together really to make sure that we are working to serve the preservation and access mission of the organization, but also make it useful, for research, for pedagogy, to advance the scholarly enterprise at large. So that is who we are and how we're all going. But that's really enough about us. We really do want to talk to you about you and the benefits that you have. Again, please feel free at this time, anytime, enter questions that you've got, and we will address those. So I do want to highlight a bit more. Mike introduced the new members. It has been exciting. I joined just a little over a year and a half ago and have seen so many institutions come in. I've talked to a number of them, staff from reference librarians up to the deans. So I've been getting to know some of the new member libraries, and it's exciting. But in total, you can see from this map that, yes, we do have a large base of membership in North America. We have 7 libraries from Canada. We do have a scattering from other countries as well. We have a member from Lebanon, the American University in Beirut. We work with the Complutense, I won't pronounce that right, but Madrid. We also have 2 members from Australia, 1 from New Zealand, and I think I might be missing 1 at this point. Yes, New Zealand. We cannot forget New Zealand, one of our newer members this year in a new country. So what we do have and what we are gaining is really this depth and breadth of contributions from members, more and more increasingly from all around the world. So we, on average, get between 7 and 10 new libraries per year, and I think we're on track to have that happen again. There are a few members that are not actual like university or college libraries, but one of our criteria, as Mike said, is that they are an academic or research library. One example of an academic or research library not affiliated with a university or college is the Getty Research Institute. New York Public Library, let's give you a shout out. I think you're here en masse. And so we do have some members that are not affiliated properly with a university or college, but the majority of our members are. So our libraries who are members today have joined for a variety of reasons. They have cited all kinds of different reasons for joining. As I mentioned, many joined early on because of the unique and robust preservation component. Many now are citing our shared print program, which we'll be talking about a bit later. But overall, the libraries are coming together because they know that by coming together as academic and research libraries, we can together and collectively be more than our own individual libraries. This is a picture from our member meeting last year, and this is really what people are gaining by coming together in HathiTrust as a collaborative, as a not-for-profit organization, in sharing together solutions to some of the common challenges that academic and research libraries face. So this is the kind of thing that new members you can look forward to, is this collegial space, this working together, this collaborating together and joining forces to share information. And, you know, members who've been with us for a while know that this is true. I've heard from you. I think that you're seeing this happen. The thing is, when we do start to talk about the library benefits at large, we want to talk about these at a more granular level too. Well, we do provide benefits to the general public in making items available to genealogists, to lay researchers. Being a member of HathiTrust and having your staff, faculty, and students gain access to HathiTrust does come with some exclusive benefits. So, as mentioned, the long-term preservation and access for those digital collections is priceless for everybody, right? And it is also comes without a cost. We do not charge for deposit of materials, so it is unlimited deposits for those items. Member libraries and their communities can download complete works that are in the public domain or that have been opened with a Creative Commons license. Non-members do not have the ability to download full items just page by page. Members also have access to our equitable access service for those with print disabilities. This means that in a relationship that HathiTrust has with member institutions and their services for students with disabilities, we can provide any item in the corpus in copyright to those students who have been deemed eligible to receive these kinds of benefits. With the shared print program, we guarantee physical access to those print works that are retained through that program. And also, members and researchers can receive preferred access to basically it's an advanced computing environment that you can use with copyrighted items in the corpus. So those are a few of the exclusive member benefits that really set membership apart from just someone who can, on their browser, access some of the online items from the repository. Something that's also unique for members, and that it really provides you with some more robust kind of material and data to look at for your own library work, is that we have available certain APIs that you can use to kind of tap into the HathiTrust repository, gain more information. It's really a self-serve environment, but you can get metadata, you can get certain data sets. I'm looking at some of my notes here. Hathi files are something that people use a lot for different work behind the scenes in your own library. So again, there is a link here. We'll be sharing the slides afterwards, and you can explore the ways in which those might serve some of your own purposes in your own library. So all of these benefits really speak to the core of HathiTrust's work, which is this beautiful and magnificent collective collection that we've created together. So before I dig into the collections a bit, again, I just want to pause, say if you have any questions about membership benefits, anything that Mike or I have covered to this point, please enter it in the chat window. As I said before, we will not get to everything today, but please do ask, and it will give us some ideas of what we need to cover in the future. So you are among the first to know, truly seriously, that within the past month, we have hit 17 million total volumes in the repository. So this is exciting. This is another milestone that we together have all achieved. We're still doing some reporting to track down exactly what that 17 millionth item is. It's usually some range, but we are working to identify what that is. But that's exciting. The total sum of the corpus is mostly published items from academic and research libraries, mostly in bound form. As Mike said earlier, there's a couple of exceptions to those, but for the most part, the 17 million total volumes, 8.2 million individual titles come from you and our contributors. A full 38% of the collection at 6.4 million volumes are open in the public domain or through a Creative Commons licensing for reading. And again, for members, that means any of those items can be downloaded in full as a PDF, kind of in one fell swoop. So 38% of the collection. I should note too that that does include a large portion of US federal documents. So that's something else you can look forward to discovering there. The content streams for the whole collection kind of look like this. About 94-95% of the collection is from Google digital efforts, the digitization project that Google had going in the past and continues to this day, I believe, with many libraries. Internet Archive is coming in through a different pathway in terms of how we receive it, but there are a number of contributors that have that pipeline established with Internet Archive so that becomes a digitization stream for HathiTrust. And there's a small portion of the collection, just about 2%, that is coming from local digitization projects. So these are the sources. In general, we are growing at about an average of 1 million volumes per year. So again, 17 million in 2019 and 18 in 2020. We'll see if we're on track for that. Contributors certainly have grown and increased in number and in content variety since we were formed in 2008. This is a snapshot of our contributors over the past decade from a 10th anniversary collection analysis that we did last fall. So again, I've included a link here that you can explore later. There's really cool stuff in that analysis. But this just shows you that, in 2008, it was U of M in blue, and the bright green is Wisconsin. 2009, we added California, and from there on, we kept adding more and more contributors. We've got a lot of people contributing, tens of thousands of items, and we also have contributors who are contributing 60, 70, 2, 5. It's not a requirement that you contribute digitized content, and certainly we have no minimum, no maximum. So if you've been wondering, geez, do I even have enough? You are enough, you've got enough, you can contribute. So I think today is about 60 total contributors, and that continues to grow as well. So some of what the collection looks like, and as we start to break it down, you'll see that there's a lot of different ways we can look at this. But the collection by language, as you look at it, probably looks a lot like your collection on your shelves in your library. We've got the majority of the collection is in the English language. There are more than 450 total languages represented in the collection. And again, that can be the one item in a language, but we count it, and it is about 12.5%. So we are strong also in the Romance languages. This is in part, and I think Mike could probably speak to this a little better than I could right now, but just given copyright terms and the sort of time frame that the collection covers, we do have great strength in German, French, Spanish. Russian is fairly substantial as well. And we are increasing, I think, our numbers of volumes in Asian languages too. So another way that we can look at the collection is through the Library of Congress classification profiles. You can see that one of the greatest strengths in the collection is in the Romance languages for literature. This does include Portuguese as well, but we've got nearly 300,000 volumes that fit that classification. Other strengths, just in terms of total volumes and titles, focus a lot on the United States, history of Asia. We've got English literature, American literature, and it's, again, really largely reflects the collection profile of a typical academic or research library in North America. So in many ways, no surprises there. Some of the more interesting ways that people have looked at the collection and used the collection are through the curated collections. You may have done this yourselves or seen it in the library. These are curated collections either by individuals or member libraries. We have a very large, as I said, U.S. federal documents collection that you can look at in whole. There are also some subsets. The EPA subset collection is one. I think we've got another couple of the U.S. federal government agencies divided into a sub-collection. Just this year, we had the California Legislative Publications collection come in, as well as Scripps Institution of Oceanography. Michigan State University just got together and submitted the agricultural documents from their own land-grant institution. And there are a number of agricultural collections like that, but there's also just some fun stuff. Really, there you can find anything from, cookery to detective materials. We've got some really savvy staff here at HathiTrust who've created some kind of fun and funky collections. So it's not just all scholarly works here, but certainly people are using them in a lot of different ways. I've had a chance to talk to some faculty members who build a collection in HathiTrust to support a particular course that they're teaching in a semester, and then share that with their students. So it's a tool that I'm not going to be able to teach you about today, but I hope to in the future. But just know that it's something you can use to look at the collection a little differently. Another connection to the collection overall is the shared print program. So many of you are participating. You can see here there are 79 retention libraries that have begun participating in the shared print program. And the shared print program really is a bridge between the digital works in the HathiTrust repository and the print collections that you all hold in your libraries. So the primary goal of the program is to steward print copies of all HathiTrust digital holdings. Right now, there are a focus on monographs, and at this point, about 76% of all HathiTrust digital monographs have been committed to the shared print program. With the 79 retention libraries, they have all made a 25-year commitment for their titles within the shared print program. So they will be retained for 25 years. In total, that volume of retained titles represent about 5.4 individual titles. So of all those in the repository, 76% of the monographs are retained in the shared print program. And this is really a growing bridge that is happening here in HathiTrust. Heather Welton is the program officer for that. She is new this year. And if you haven't already worked with her, you may. And as the program enters its third phase, the idea is that we can grow this more to be increasingly useful in terms of your collection management and other ways that we together can manage our print and digital collections. So that is the last I have to say about collections, because what is a collection without being able to access it in some way, shape, or form? I will give you a chance to type in some questions if you have them. We are coming up on the last few bits here before we get started. All right. When we talk about access, it's really different. People use access in different terms. It can be view, it can be download, it can be search, but it's usually related to an item. And if my colleague Angelina was here, she runs the user support team, she would say that one of the #1 questions they get in the user support group is, why can't I access this one thing? So I'm here to give a little illumination on that topic. One of the first things I can tell you is that log in. If there's one thing that you take away from today's webinar and that you take back and share with your community and your patrons, that in order to get the member benefits that I was talking about before, such as downloading full PDFs of public domain items, having the ability to gain access to different items through the Equitable Access Service. But really, when someone is logged in to the HathiTrust website using their institutional credentials, that's when they can get the member benefits. So little screenshot here, where you log in, somebody clicks on the button, you get a drop down of that partner institution, select that, and that's what's going to get you the member benefits. Something that's tricky that I want to point out is that if someone is getting to a HathiTrust item via third-party, discovery tool, they may go through that discovery tool, get to the HathiTrust page, and think they can just keep going, and then discover that they can't download what they thought they could download. If they get pushed, again, through another discovery tool, they will still need to log in to get the benefits. Thankfully, that little yellow login button is everywhere through the catalog. Anytime you're on a search item, you can always log in. So we'll be pushing that information out a bit more this year because it is key to access. So the search, I'm going to keep this really simple as well. There are advanced features to our search functionality, but one of the questions we get is, when do you search full text? When do you search the catalog? So when you are going to search the catalog, you're really looking for descriptive information. You're really looking at the bibliographic metadata. You're looking at title. You're looking at author. That's searching the catalog. Full text allows you to, what it sounds like, search the full text of an item for a particular phrase, some descriptions, a name, a personal pronoun, a location, a place. And so if you know really what you're looking for, the catalog could be your best first stop. If you're just looking to maybe put together an index, or like a bibliographic piece on a certain topic, you might want to do some full text searching. So we could go in and talk a lot about search, but I just wanted to give you that little snippet, and don't forget to log in. So again, the concept of access really is a little bit more complicated than you think it should be, and it is to me sometimes. There's 3 variables. There's the action, there's view, search, download, there's the actor or the user. Are they a member? Are they a non-member? And then the item itself what is the item status? What is it in copyright? Is it in the public domain? Where is the user coming from when they try to access that particular item? So I'm just going to highlight here quickly the benefits for members. Members can download items in full in the public domain. You can view it in full in those items in the public domain. For in copyright items, this is one feature of access that is the same for both members and non-members, is that everything that is held in copyright is under the same US copyright law for everybody. You have a limited search, which means you can search for phrases in the text, but we do not present that in full view to members or non-members. That's just US copyright law. There is an opportunity for members to have some special features in the non-consumptive research space. That is the primary difference. There are some variations on what you can access based on US copyright law, where you are physically located when you are trying to access an item, but that is a bit more in depth than I have time to go into today. But this slide gives you at least something you can look at and reference as you're thinking about access for members. I'm going to go a little bit quickly here, so I want to make sure that we have time for questions. Another way to access the collection is through the athiTrust Research Center. Many of you have talked about this over the past year. We've had some really exciting developments there in terms of opening the full corpus to non-consumptive research, computational analysis, and the athiTrust analytics site there gets you started. There are some features, some tool sets that are there for beginners. There are some advanced tools and some by request only that are available only to members. But it's another way to have a deep dive into the collection itself. And there are going to be this summer, and I think Sandra will talk about this a bit in a second, some great opportunities for members to get more in-depth training on the resources of the athiTrust Research Center. So that is the deeper dive into the corpus. I put here just a definition of non-consumptive research. We do get that question a lot. If you think of non-consumptive research as just doing let's see, I had it really down to something kind of cool, like research without reading. It's computing versus close reading. So it's something that fits in with copyright law and also allows for really great tools and analysis of this huge data set, which is our library. I mean, it really is a different way to think about research and analyzing the corpus. So with all of that technology, we don't want to forget about the basics. The earliest libraries, this is the library at Pergama in modern-day Turkey, was built by human hands. People built this. People also built the athiTrust digital repository. Mike pulled this slide up last year, and I can't get over how phenomenal it is to think that early on and to this day, we do still have human hands touching every page that gets scanned into the library. So that being said, we can never forget that we are all together in this. We are the people. It's not just the digital library. It's not just the work that we do, but we are still people behind the digital library, and there are people behind ways that you get help. So this is how to get help at the digital library, the athiTrust digital library. We've got a core team of your peers, member library and staff volunteer their time, contribute as a team member on the athiTrust user support group. So they assign, they answer tickets that come in through feedback@issues.athitrust.org, athiTrust Research Center, also humans behind the technology and the online interface. So that is how you can get help. You can send questions about items in the repository, report quality issues, or also just inquire about any member benefits. And when you do so using this email address, we'll make sure it gets to the right person. In addition, we need you. You are people. We need people to be involved in continuing to build and create this robust community of academic and research libraries. So this is a list of all the different ways that you as HathiTrust member librarians and staff, faculty, students can be involved. Some apply to some of those roles, some less so, but I encourage you to, when possible, participate on shared governance. You can vote as a member representative of your institution. We encourage you to do that. There are working groups and advisory groups you can serve on. Attending webinars such as this, signing up for and reading the newsletter is a great way to get information. Following us on social media will keep you connected to things that are happening. And I encourage you also to tell us what you're doing. You can, again, contact us through the feedback at issues.hathitrust.org. Contact me directly, Jessica Rohr, and I'd love to hear what you're up to. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Sandra, who's got a good view on where we're going next.
Thanks, Jessica. We're excited about some of the things coming up in the near future for HathiTrust and look forward to providing additional services for all of you. Coming up very soon with Eleanor Kale's work, we have the HathiTrust Research Center Train the Trainer workshops. We'll be having at least 8 in the next year at different member hosting institutions where we train librarians in how to train researchers from other departments in how to use the HathiTrust Research Center tools. And we have a day's worth of initial training followed up by an opportunity for some trainees to work with training the faculty members in a half-day workshop following that. So look for those announcements coming out soon. We also are about to release a new policy on metadata sharing and use about how we will be opening up more of our metadata for more kinds of uses for people to download and take advantage of and access in various ways. We also are looking at a variety of different things that we can do with more robust reporting, looking at the print holdings that you have and how you would like to compare them to what HathiTrust has in its collection, what other members have said that they would retain for shared print purposes to help you with collection management decisions as you move forward. We're also looking at new file formats to ingest. We're taking a look very hard right now at EPUB files and how to bring those into HathiTrust. And we'll soon be taking a look at some forms of PDF files and seeing if we can figure out ways to ingest those into the collection. We are preparing lots of new member support materials. Jessica's really involved, and Melissa, in creating essentially a toolkit online for you. So look for new content that's going up on our website shortly. We'll continue to be rolling out additional pages that will help you in new areas for how to manage things with HathiTrust, how to bring your users in to be involved more with HathiTrust, how you can leverage it and take more advantage of it. And then finally, I'm very excited to say we're hiring an enterprise architect to work as a technology lead for our systems. We have a lot of exciting frontiers behind the scenes that we want to make sure come to the forefront with new services and functionality in the digital library and across our entire enterprise. And we'll shortly be announcing a posting for a new metadata analyst to start looking at new forms of discovery for how HathiTrust operates to share its resources. So an exciting future ahead, and I'm glad to be able to share some of that with you. Thanks, Jessica.
So you've heard a lot about where we've been, where we are, where we're headed. I want to thank you, everyone on my team who's participated, thank all of you for attending today, and open it up to questions. I'll also say that we will be sharing a recording of this and the slides out to those who've registered afterwards. We'll also post it on the website so that you can pass it on to others as you would like.
We got one question a couple of times, so it might be worth addressing out loud so that it's on the recording. We got a couple of questions about whether librarians can redistribute items that they've downloaded from HathiTrust through interlibrary loan to non-member institutions.
Seems like a really good question. I don't know that I'm the best one to answer that.
I was just trying to answer that. I responded in the chat windows to a couple of these, but it's worth others hearing. So we generally have just a couple of things that we ask our members and our users to remember when they're using HathiTrust content. One is that if items are being redistributed, they're redistributed only for non-commercial purposes. And then some of our contributors have also asked us to ensure that we are limiting or ensuring that materials not being, massively redistributed. So we are aware that some libraries have, for public domain materials, use their interlibrary loan services to share copies. We don't track that. We don't really have any good data on its prevalence. So we can't really offer you any best practices on that. But the main thing to keep in mind is if you're a library and you're enabling folks, you're helping people use this material, we want to make sure that the stuff is used primarily for non-commercial purposes and that it's not, we're not building a new collection of HathiTrust somewhere else that others are redistributing. That's just a request from our depositors. So. Hope that was helpful.
I see a question here from Dartmouth Library that do we make a distinction between students and faculty in terms of accessibility? And I just wanted to clarify that the provision of access to people with print disabilities is provided via the disability services offices at different institutions that have member institutions who have registered those individuals with us. And then it's up to that services office to determine the qualifications of students and faculty for receiving materials on the basis of their print disability.
Okay, any more questions? I'm not seeing any more. Most of the other questions we answered in the chat.
It looks like it.
Just got a new question from Camille Cooper about the upcoming Train the Trainer workshops, how they're going to be provided face-to-face or online. And so maybe Sandra, do you want to try to respond to that?
Sure, those will be done face-to-face. They'll be in-person workshops. Eleanor Kale and Ryan Dubnicek will be going to different host institutions from among our members who volunteer to host their own librarians as well as nearby other librarians from other institutions in a face-to-face workshop. There'll be up to 20 seats in each workshop. There are, however, Camille, you might be interested, there are, however, and I can send you a link, there are recorded tutorials available from previous workshops. So if you're interested in taking a look at some of that, you're certainly welcome to online, and I'll find that link for you now and put it in the chat window.
We had a question about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say we definitely have a few more minutes for questions. So I see there's still quite a few people online. So don't be shy. There are no dumb questions. If there's anything you've just always wanted to know and feel like you should know, it's okay. Like, please ask that question.
Okay.
I would be interested in hearing if anyone has just a one-word topic of what they would like to hear more about in a webinar. If you were going to spend 45 minutes on any single topic about HathiTrust, what would you want it to be?
We have a question that came in from Stephen Hearn about whether HTRC is seeing a mix of member and non-member users.
I can respond to that. I was actually just looking at their user data the other day. It is a mix. There are some services, especially through the web portal, that anyone can sign up for and use. Those tend to be the functions that are a little less powerful or the more exploratory. But overall, I think it was something like a 4-to-1, maybe 5-to-1 ratio. I was a little over 4-to-1 ratio of users of the portal, the Hot Research Center services being members, not non-members, being members. And then I think, as was pointed out during the presentation, there are some services that are exclusively reserved for members. So full text and data mining services for the copyright materials are only available to members, as well as ACS program, the award program where folks are given some advanced consulting time with the Research Center. Our most recent award group was limited to projects coming from HathiTrust members. So.
And we've received a lot of great topics, it looks like, to address either in a future webcast or in a possible newsletter, article, or blog post. So thank you to everyone.
See a couple questions in there. One that catches my eye: are you OCRing foreign language materials?
Yes, we are.
Sandra?
We OCR everything. And the ability of the OCR systems to detect the foreign language appropriately has been improving greatly. But there are still occasions when we find the wrong language has been applied for OCR. If you find one of those, please do alert us using our feedback button at the top of each page.
Great. These are some excellent topics. I love seeing these come in.
I'm going to type in one other thing in the chat window here, which is to remind people that if you have questions, did you use the feedback address during there? I'm just going to type that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an address I'm typing in. Some of the questions that are coming in now are a little too complex for us to be able to answer in 1 minute. So I'm going to drop this email address in there, and then if you want to follow up with us via that address, especially if you're asking about how a specific service can be used on your campus and we need to help you with that, that's a great way to do it. We're also going to be taking a look at this transcript of the chat window to make sure we didn't overlook something that was important to be addressed and try to follow up if that's the case. So,
yeah. It's fantastic. I really do appreciate everyone coming out today, and we will be putting this together and link follow-up email. These are some great suggestions, so you may expect to see another webinar topic in the future, or blog post, something in the newsletter. And as Sandra said, we will continue to develop more ways that we can connect on these really important topics so that you can make the most of HathiTrust for you, your library, and your campus community. So I think unless anyone else here has anything to add, we can let everyone continue on with their day. Great.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.